Hey, Wendy.
Hi, good morning.
Hi, I'm sorry you didn't get the Zoom link. I know Joey sent it twice, I sent it once. So you'll probably have about 5 emails in your spam folder. So
I'll tell you what, you know what, I was looking at email and I may have seen it and then didn't think it was a link. So it's no big deal.
Okay, great. Well, we have level 3, level 4 students with us today. Everyone say hi to Wendy Dierberger. Are you still head of ESL at Nashville State, or what's your job now?
So my job now is I'm just a teacher, not just, I am a teacher. I have retired as the ESL coordinator and I teach part-time, teaching 1 class this semester, and it'll be kind of on and off teaching for now. So yeah, so I'm no longer the ESL program coordinator, but I'm happy to talk to students about the process. Actually, I love talking to the students, so I'm happy to do this.
Y'all come and have a seat, and if we could send the sign-in sheet around. And we have other chairs over there too. Okay, guys, so thank you, Wendy. So Wendy's one of our favorite speakers. She will be talking to everyone today about what we call higher education. That means 2-year colleges, trade schools, 4-year colleges, what you need if you want to go on to school, what language level you should have, financial aid, any question you have about higher education for you, for your friends, for your children. Wendy is the person who can answer those questions. So definitely have something to write with, to take notes, and take it away, Wendy. That's all I got.
All right, good morning. Oh, I'm so happy to be here today. I thank you and all of the people at NICE for inviting me. I thank you for listening today. I know you will have questions, and that's okay. We're here to answer your questions. You don't have to remember everything we tell you, because no matter where you go, if you go to another school for higher education, there will be people to help you with the process and answer your questions. But this is a good start, so don't worry if you forget some of this information. So I do have a PowerPoint presentation to share with you. Let me see here. I'm going to go ahead and get it started, and then we will go through it. We'll take a break and we'll answer questions along the way, but then we'll also have lots of time at the end for questions. Okay, this is not doing what I want it to do. All right, 1 second, please. Don't you love technology? All right, here. Okay, can you see my screen okay? It says Nashville State Community College. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay. So I do work at Nashville State Community College, and I used to be, in the past, I was the ESL program coordinator. And that means I help students in all different areas of English language. So I no longer do that, but I still have all the information and knowledge in my head, and I can certainly share that with you. I still work at the college. Now I'm teaching, I'm in the classroom, but again, I can always answer questions for you. So today, mostly I'm going to talk about English language at Nashville State, but I'm also going to talk about a lot more. I'm going to talk about the college a little bit. A college usually is 2 years and a university is 4 years. But the thing is, if you go to Nashville State Community College for 2 years, then go to the university, you've already finished those first 2 years. They work together. We will talk about our English language classes, ESL. We'll also talk about what it means to be a full-time or part-time student. Full-time and part-time, like when you're talking about a job, we're going to talk about that when we in regards to being a student, a full-time student or a part-time student. We will also talk about the application process. You must do an application to go to a school of higher learning, higher education. So if you go to a college, a university, or even a trade school, you will have an application. So the process is very similar. We will talk about financial aid and ways that you can get help to pay for your classes. And then, of course, we'll answer questions along the way. So at Nashville State, we are a community college. That means we're a 2-year college. Typically, it takes a student 2 years to complete a degree, and that's full-time study. We have students from over 80 countries. We have students from all over the world. We're a very diverse school. And we have over 70 different types of majors. That means what you can study, your degree for your career. We have classes at all different times. We have classes during the day. If you have children and your children are in school, that's perfect. If you have a job during the day, you could take class at night. And then on the weekends, you could also take some classes. So Nashville State is flexible, and they want their students to succeed and earn their degree or career major. Now, very briefly, I'll talk about the most common thing that our students do. They get an associate's degree. An associate's degree is typically 2 years of studying in classes full-time. And again, I'll talk about full-time, part-time in a little bit. We have degrees that you do 2 years of work, then you transfer and go to a university for another 2 years. So that's 2 years at Nashville State, 2 years at the university, and that would be a bachelor's degree. That's one possible way. Another type of associate degree, the associate degree, it's called Associate of Applied Science. That's 2 years, and then you go to work. It's a little different. When you go to work, you have some of the classes and skills and information that will help you in that job. So while we have Associate of Science, Associate of Arts, those transfer degrees for 2 years to go to the university, we also have the ones that are 2 years and then you go get a job. Let's say you do that second one and you go and you're working and then you decide, I think I want to go to the university now. That's okay. But you may have to take some extra classes because in that Associate of Applied Science, some of the classes are for work or job, and they're not really transfer classes for a university. But it's still very possible for students to go from Nashville State, go to work, go back, go to the university. You have lots of options and you can change your mind. So that's flexible. Now, we also have something called a technical certificate. A technical certificate is shorter. It's only about 9 or 12 months. It is not a degree. It's usually something that you add. So you might be working at a job and your boss says, hey, I want you to go and take some accounting, business math classes. And so you could go to Nashville State and you could do a technical certificate. And in a year, you would have some classes in accounting, and then you're helping your boss and your boss is like, hey, this is great. You're doing really well with this accounting. I want you to go and get more accounting classes. You could go back to Nashville State and work on an associate's degree. You could do an Associate of Applied Science in accounting, or you could do an associate transfer degree and then go to a university. So there's many levels and in how much you can study in a subject and what you want to do. Again, it's flexible and you can always earn that technical certificate and then later get your associate's degree. Or the other way around, you could start on an associate's degree, but life happens, you finish a technical certificate first and then go back to an associate's degree. So it's very flexible and we have lots and lots of options. So have you thought about what you would like to study? Nashville State has a lot of options. We have business, engineering, education. We have a program in culinary arts. Culinary arts is cooking. You would learn to be a professional chef. We have nursing. We have other medical programs. We have a lot of medical programs, and medical jobs pay good money. And we have lots of ESL students that do those. Our ESL students do everything, but a lot of times they work in healthcare. So, so one thing I wanted to tell you about Nashville State's program in particular, let me just pause here for a second. I'm going to pause. Does anybody have any questions about associate degrees or technical certificates? Any questions about majors? Again, that's your career choice. Does anybody have any questions about that? No questions? All right. Let's see here.
Yeah. Go ahead.
You have a question?
Yeah,
I have a question.
Okay, what's your question?
I have a certification of medical assistant and I want to go to study again, studying as a nurse. So can I get like a associate degree?
Yes, very good question. So exactly. If you have a medical technician degree, you work in a medical field, right? You work with patients, you work with doctors, clients. A nursing degree is a very good next step. And we have programs, and we have a nursing program. And Nashville State's nursing program is very, very good. They, when the students finish their nursing classes and they take their test, they get between 90 to 100% of all students pass their test and become nurses. So if you get into the nursing program, you will definitely be able to find a job. So, so yeah, that's what happens. A lot of times people work in the medical field, they're a medical technician, and then they go on to nursing school and complete the nursing courses. Yeah. Go ahead.
Sorry. What I'm asking about, do I need like some language courses before going into like a associate degree?
So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about what you do before you do your degree courses. So, so hold that question, and I'll make sure I answer it when we talk about ESL courses. Okay.
Thank you.
Sure, no problem. Okay, so I will continue sharing our slide, and please again let me know if I'm not sharing. 1 second. Here we go. Okay, sharing. Okay, can you see my PowerPoint with ESL 3 levels?
Yeah.
All right, excellent, very good. Okay, so let's talk about English language classes. Now, we talked about what Nashville State has, and when I was talking before, that is something for everybody. For English language students like you, for native speakers who were born in this country and did school here in the US, that's for everybody. Before you start taking classes for your major, for your career, like accounting or nursing, you would take English language classes. So at Nashville State, we have the biggest and most diverse English language program in the state of Tennessee. Nashville State's English language program has been a program for 25 years. We have 3 levels of English language. We have 13 different classes. Our classes cover different subject areas. So you could take a listening and speaking class, grammar, reading, or writing. So we have lots of different classes because we know every student is different. So here's a chart that shows our classes. And we have, like I said, 3 different levels: level 2, lower intermediate; level 3, upper intermediate; level 4, advanced. Now, every student is different. And when you come to Nashville State, you will take a test for English. And then that will tell us what classes you need. Now, in level 3 and level 4 at NICE, usually you place into our level 2. So NICE, your levels are different than our levels. They all have the same name. It's very confusing. I'm sorry. But you would take a test and we would put you in the classes that you need. Now, we would never put you in a class that you do not need. So for example, often you students that take the test maybe have a higher listening and speaking score. And so it's possible that maybe you're level 3 for us in listening and speaking, but level 2 in reading. That's okay. So we would never make you take listening and speaking 2 if you're in level 3. So we always, make sure we put students where they are. And you can see the green and the green arrows going down, down. When you take the classes, you go down towards your college classes. You'll take classes for your major. So if you came to Nashville State, you would take a test. We would look and see which classes are best for you. And then after you finish English language classes, you go on and take classes for your college major. Some students are worried that it's going to take too long. And I tell you, think about building a house. When you make or build a house, you want to have a strong base before you put up the walls and the roof. If the base is not strong, your house will not stand up. It will fall down. So you want to take those English classes that you need before your college classes, because that will help you later in your college classes. Now, I'm going to skip ahead. I think I'm missing a slide here. Oh, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to skip and then I'll come back. Sorry about that. So our ESL classes are academic English classes. Academic means school, education. So academic English classes are different than conversation classes. We do not teach you how to fill out a job application. We do not teach you how to read a bus schedule. We teach you the English you need to be a college student. To go to the university, you need to be able to write essays, write papers, write in a way that is an academic style. The other thing about our ESL program is after you finish ESL, you will have more support and help in all of your classes. These are college classes with native speakers. You could have additional language support because your English never stops growing. Your English is always going to grow and grow and grow. So we know that, and we continue to support you after your English classes. And again, we focus on academic English. So are there any questions about the English language classes? let me stop here. So any questions about ESL classes? So ESL is different for everybody, right? Your English language classes are going to be different for everybody. So just know that what happens for one student might be a little different for other students. And again, like I said, your test results could be different, but we have the support to help you at whatever level you are. Okay. All right. I'll continue talking about being a student. Oops, wrong slide. Let me. And I still have to share, don't I? All right, sorry about that. Okay, so let's talk about what kind of student you can be. But before we talk about that, we need to talk about something called credits. It really means how many hours do you go in the classroom. At Nashville State, and this is true of any college or university, when you are a student and you are in the classroom, you are working with the teacher and other students, but you must also do work outside of the classroom. So when we're talking about credits, we're talking about the number of hours that you are inside the classroom. At Nashville State, all of our ESOL classes are 3 credits. And that means you will be in a classroom for 3 hours every week. Now, when I say classroom, it's possible to be in a Zoom class, right? We have Zoom classes, we have in-person classes where you're in the same room with the teacher. We have different options. But one ESL class is 3 hours in the classroom every week. Now, how many weeks do you go to school? 15. A semester is 15 weeks. We have a fall semester, which it started August 22nd, and it'll go all the way until early December. We have a spring semester that goes from January to May. That's also 15 weeks. And then we have a summer semester, and the summer semester is shorter. It's only 10 weeks, but you still have the same number of classroom hours. Instead of 3 hours a week, you actually go 4 hours because every class has the same total number of hours in the classroom. Now, I did talk earlier, I mentioned full-time and part-time students. But you have to think about these credits or credit hours, how many hours you're in the classroom. And you have to think about what else do you need. You're in the class for 3 hours every week. You should also plan homework time outside of class. Homework time could be studying. It could be writing papers. It could be working in a group with other students. It could be going to get extra help and tutoring. A tutor is a teacher, but it's one teacher, one student. We have free tutors so that after class, if you need extra help with grammar, you can go see a tutor or your teacher. So that means you have 3 hours in the classroom every week, but you also need to plan that study time. So you really need about 9 hours every week for just one class. If you are a full-time student, and now you know full-time, when we talk about work, full-time is like 40 hours or more. Well, it's kind of the same for a student. If you take 12 credits, that means you're taking 4 or 5, maybe 6 classes. You're in the classroom about 12 hours, but you also need to have that extra study time, homework time. So it's really about 36 hours. That's a full-time job. It's almost 40 hours. You need a lot of time if you're a full-time student. Now, at Nashville State, it is possible to be a part-time student, no problem. A part-time student usually takes 1 or 2, maybe 3 classes. 3 is kind of a lot, but that's less than full-time. And when you go to Nashville State, you can be a part-time student in 1 semester and think, you know what, I have more time. The next semester, you can be full-time. You can decide and change. Again, it's flexible. You don't have to do only part-time, part-time, part-time. You can be a full-time student, change to be part-time, change to be full-time. That's not a problem. At Nashville State, over half of our students are part-time. Most of our students are part-time, 58%. That's a big number. What does that mean? That means we know that you have life, you have family, you have jobs, you have church, you have to get your children to school. Maybe you have a mother or a father that lives with you that you have to take care of. We understand that you have a life. It is okay to be part-time, and we support you as part-time. So just keep that in mind. You can be a part-time student, you can be a full-time student. You can decide, and you'll have conversations before you ever make your schedule and choose your classes. So this is the big question that people ask me all the time. Miss Wendy, I want to finish. I want to be a nurse. I want to take my nursing classes. Can I go part-time and finish? Yes, absolutely. So when we talk about a full-time student, we're talking about 12 to 15 credits every semester. That's only about 30 credits a year. That's only fall and spring. It takes 2 years. If you go part-time and you go fall, spring, and summer, and you only take 2 classes, maybe 3, you could finish 25 credits. So in 2.5 years, 2 years, 2.5, you could finish. Okay, so if you think about it, if you go part-time, but you also include the summers, it's almost like being full-time. So don't think you have to hurry and be full-time. It is not necessary. And it's not a good idea if you have a job that you work 40 hours and you have children. When are you going to have time to study? Think about it. So when you come to Nashville State or you go to any school, you have to think about the time that you work in the classroom on school and the time outside of the classroom, and then how many hours you need just to be a student. Okay, so are there any questions? What kind of a student are you? Do you think you might be part-time, full-time? Anybody have any questions about full-time or part-time?
Is full-time or part-time only study English, right?
No, you can do full-time or part-time when you study English. So yes, you are correct. After English, you can do full-time or part-time for your classes in your major. If you're going to study accounting, let's use that accounting example again, business math. If you're doing this business math program, you could be part-time. We have classes all the time. So if you don't take the class in the fall, it'll be available in the spring. Most classes you can take fall or spring. In the summer, we don't have every class, but we have a lot of options and a lot of classes in the summer. So, so you do not have to be full-time in your major.
Okay, example, I am a lawyer in my country, okay? What what class take here? So,
Okay, so what you do is when you're studying at Nashville State, you would do your English language classes. So you would do your English language classes first. And then you would do your general education classes or your courses for law or pre-law. At Nashville State, it would be pre-law. It would be more like political science and your general courses. And you would do those after ESL. So the classes in your major after you finish your English language courses. So if you look here at this chart, and this is for anybody, if you want to do accounting, if you want to do nursing, you do your English language classes, that's the purple. And then you go down to the green, those classes are the classes that you take for your degree. Now, every degree has some classes that are the same that everybody takes, but then they also have special classes. So if you are going to be a nurse, you will not take business classes. You will not take accounting. You will take biology, you'll take microbiology, you'll take anatomy and physiology, and you'll take a math class. But if you're in accounting, you'll take a math class and probably a second math class and then other business courses. And that would all be the green. So every student is different. After you do English, then you go towards your major or your career. And
the first is English, okay, the base.
right, yeah, first is English because you want your English to be at an advanced level high enough so that when you go to your college classes, you will be successful and you will pass your classes. If today you said, I want to go to Nashville State and I want to take my nursing classes, my accounting classes, you won't pass the classes. Your English isn't ready. So our job is to help you get your English ready so that you can take those other classes. And I know this is hard because you want to finish and take your major classes. And in ESL, we understand that. So what we do is when you get to our level 4, our advanced level, reading for and writing for, we let you take another test to see if you can skip a level. But that's after you finish ESL. So that's to help you go a little faster. But it's important that you know when to go fast, right? Take your English, 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 then take a second test to see if you can skip that higher level, because that just shows us that you're ready for your college classes. Some students are ready, some students aren't, and they just take some other supported classes. So yeah, you definitely want to finish your English first. And I can tell you, I studied a different language for about 14, 15 years, a long time. And I went to another country and I went to a university and there were no language classes for me. I had to jump in and take university classes with the native speakers. That is so scary. And I really wish I would have had like kind of a little bit of a language class before I took university classes. It was hard. It's not, my language was not at a level for great success. And that first class I didn't pass. So, so yeah, it's important that you do this in the right steps. Any other questions? Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I thought it might be helpful for you to explain what is different about the English classes at Nashville State and the classes they're taking here at NICE.
Yes, okay. So the classes at Nashville State are very different. Our classes, like I said, are academic classes. And what that means, and what I'll do is I'll just actually type right here. Hold on. So our classes are English classes that prepare you for college. And so what we're going to do, let me just share a new screen with you. Oops. Oh, okay. So I said our classes are academic classes. And so we are going to prepare you for college. And so let's talk about reading. Now, when you are reading at college, your professor, your teacher will tell you, read chapter 1 and we're going to have a quiz, or read chapter 1 and chapter 2. That could be 50 to 100 pages. And that is every week. Now, students that are at NICE and you are level 3 or level 4, you are probably reading at about a 5th grade level. So in the US, it's about 5th grade. You have gone to school for 5 or 6 years, and our program will take you from 5th grade to 12th grade. So we're going to take you 7 years of school reading, 7 years in 3 semesters. So in 1 year at Nashville State, you're reading. So that means that right now at NICE, you are probably reading, I'm going to say, it takes a lot to read, right? You're slow, you have to look up words. And when we're talking about it, you know, a school book, it's a big book with lots of words on a page. So you will end up reading slowly. But as you grow in your reading, you'll read faster and you'll know more words. Something else that's important for reading is vocabulary. Well, Larry. Advanced, or no, let's say a native speaker, okay? Because when you're taking college classes, you're taking college classes with native speakers. Your college classes, and this is after ESL, your college classes, the teacher is not going to say, oh, okay, I'm going to go slow because English is not your first language. They don't know that. They don't know that information about you. So they're thinking, okay, I'm a native speaker. My students are native speakers. I'm just going to teach. A native speaker knows about 50,000 words. That's a lot of vocabulary. And it's probably 35,000 to 50,000. So I'm not going to be too sensational here. So that's a lot of words. An advanced ESL student, that would be somebody that finishes Nashville State's ESL. How many words do you think they know? Can anybody guess? How many words do you think an advanced ESL student knows?
45.
3,500 to 5,000 words. So you only know about 10% of what a native speaker knows. But yet you have to be in the same class with them. So we teach you reading, but we also teach, you strategies, things to make you be a better reader, tips, tricks, things to help you be a better reader. Because you're going to be in a class with native speakers. We know that your language will continue to grow. And once you start taking those classes, things will go better. But we know where you will have difficulties. Another thing, for example, let's talk about writing. Now, right now, you probably send text messages, you send emails, you maybe write a note to the school for your children, but you are not writing an academic school education essay. In the United States, American English is different than other languages. So if you went to a university in another country, the style of writing is going to be different. If you did not go to a university in a different country, that's okay. We're going to teach you how to write an essay. Now, an essay could be, if you're typing, it could be 3 to 12 pages. So that's a lot of writing. So an essay takes a lot. But here's the thing, like I said, the style and way that you write an academic essay, an American academic essay, is very different. Like, you have a formula, it's math, kind of. You have to do it in a very specific way. You have to type your essay and have an introduction. You must also have a topic, or what's called a thesis. That's what everything is going to be about. And so in an American essay, in the introduction, you say, okay, I'm going to talk about how to get good sleep, how to be good, how to have a good rest, how to sleep well. And so I'm going to tell you all about the good habits and the good things you can do. And then you have all of these details. And so you have detail 1 and detail 2 and detail 3, detail 4. And you say, okay, detail 1, make sure that you get exercise, because exercise will help you with sleeping. That is a good way to sleep. So I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to repeat it. And then number 2 is make sure that you don't drink caffeine late at night, no Coca-Cola, no coffee. So this is another way to get a good night's sleep. So I keep repeating, this is a good way to get a good sleep. I go back to the topic, go back to the thesis. So in some countries, they don't do that. They say, I'm going to tell you an interesting essay. Here's some important information. Now you know what I talked about. I talked about sleep. But in an American style academic essay, that's not how we do it. We don't make you guess. So we're going to focus on that. And you're not focusing on that kind of writing in NICE. You know, you might be writing, 1 or 2 sentences for an exercise. You might write a paragraph introducing your family. But we're talking about going to the library, doing research, learning about sleep, and then reporting it in an essay and talking about good sleep habits. So an academic essay is complex and complicated. So there's a lot involved in writing an academic essay. And if you go to a college class, again, your professor is thinking that everybody is a native speaker and that you went to a US high school, that you know all of this. So that is something that's really different about our program. Our program is going to teach you the skills that you need that were learned in US high schools. Another thing that we talk about is note-taking. How do you take notes and learn in a university classroom? Because when you're in a university classroom, the teacher is going to be giving you information, and maybe that's not in your book. And so we talk about different styles of note-taking. We also talk about tests. oops, and exams. What are some good techniques to study for your test, to prepare? Because there are many different things that you can do to prepare for a university class. And that's one thing, our classes, our ESL classes, we teach you just like you were a university college student. I use all the same things, the same tools that college and university professors use, because we want you to get ready for that. But we also know you are not a native speaker. You did not go to a US high school, most likely. And so you're missing a lot of cultural academic knowledge, right? So it's academic, but it's also cultural. So we really focus on that. And that's different than what NICE does. NICE gives you a great start. There are many different levels of English, and you want to make sure that you get to that advanced level so that you are prepared for being a college university student. Any questions about that? I know it's scary, right? That sounds really scary. But that's why we're here, is to help you prepare for it.
I have a question for you. So you
Go
have
ahead.
mentioned that we need academic language to go forward for studying for a college or associate degree. But what about license degrees?
Yeah, so a licensed degree means when you finish your studies, you take a test. So for example, in nursing, at the end of all of your nursing studies, you take a test to get your nursing license. If you're in education and you want to be a teacher, you take your education courses and then you take a test to get your teaching license. So anytime you have to take a license, you have to, it's at the end of your academic studies. So while we're talking about English language classes, after English language, then you take classes for your major. And that's what prepares you for your license exam.
Even for certificates, like technical certificate?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. What kind of certificate?
Like technical?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for a technical certificate, a lot of times you don't have to take a license test, but a technical certificate is the same. You need that academic preparation because you're still going to be in a college classroom. The classes may be a little different because they're focused on the technical certificate, but they're still college classes. And this is really interesting because Nashville State, again, Nashville State has a very big ESL program, but we had TCATs, Tennessee College of Applied Technology, a TCAT, they came to us and they're like, what do we need to do to help our students that are not native speakers? How can we help them? And so we talked about English classes to help them be TCAT students. So even if you do a technical degree at another institution, your students are still missing some sort of academic English. And so English is your first step. Our English is specific because it's English for academics, but it will help you in everything. We have students that come to Nashville State, they take our English classes, and then they leave and go work. They never take a degree or technical certificate course. That's not common, but it happens because they just want to improve their English. Maybe they have a job. I had one student come to us and she says, look, I have a very good job, but my boss says that my writing is not very good. I'm an engineer, and so I use my engineering degree from another country, but my English is difficult to understand. Can I take classes at Nashville State? Of course. This person has a professional job and they're working in their career, but they still need to improve their English because now they're working at an American business. So there are different reasons to take our classes, but you always want to follow the steps, right? You take the English, If you want to continue and get a degree or a technical certificate, then you go to that next step.
Okay, concerning the test, can we do this test in at homes?
Are you talking about the
Online?
English language test?
Yeah, concerning the test to see like what level we are
Yep.
in.
Yeah, I'll
We
talk
can-
about that in a minute. I'll talk more about the test in just a minute. But yeah, definitely, that's a great question. Does anybody
Okay.
else have any questions about what's different with NICE classes and ESL at Nashville State? Did I cover everything, Lisa? Do you think I missed anything?
I think you covered everything. I can, after we're done with Wendy, I can show you guys some resources in your existing textbooks that will help you learn some of these academic ideas, academic vocabulary. There is an academic section at the back of your textbook.
All right. That sounds great. I'm so glad that you have that resource in your book.
Yeah, it's the college and career readiness section at the back of the book.
Okay, very good. All right, well then I'll go forward and talk about the next part of the process. And so that is going to be how can you become a student? What do you need to do to be a student at Nashville State or at any school? Well, there's a process. It's called the admissions process. You have to follow the steps. The first step is going to be do an application. For Nashville State, the application is right on our website. So you go to the website and you fill out the application. Here's the thing, it's free, there's no cost. So there's no risk for you, you just do the application. Now, if you do an application, let's say you do an application for classes to begin in January, but then you're like, oh, I'm gonna wait, I don't want to do classes yet. You just need to make sure that you update it and your application really matches when you begin classes. So if you do a fall application and you do not take classes in the fall, you would later need to update your information with a spring application. And we do have people at the college to help you. So if you have questions, you can always come in and ask. So that's step one, do an application. Step two on the application is to be aware that you can choose a degree, which means an area of study, or you can choose non-degree. So a degree student, let's say you do your application and you say, I'm going to do nursing or accounting. You could possibly get financial aid. Financial aid is something that will help you pay for classes. Now, if you say accounting and later you change your mind, no problem, that's okay. You can change your major later to IT and computers, no big deal. So it's just that if you are thinking I want to do a degree, then you may apply for financial aid. Now, a degree student is required to turn in transcripts. Transcripts are those documents from school. It's like a history of your classes, right? It lists your courses, it lists the grades or scores that you have for those courses. So if you have high school, then you would turn in your high school transcript. If you went to a university or a college, you must also provide your university transcript. Now, if you only went to a university for 1 year and then you came to the United States, that's okay, no problem. You still have to show your transcript because we want to know and see your academic history. We want to see what kind of school you had. Now, if you do non-degree, you don't have to have as many documents. You don't usually turn in transcripts, but a non-degree student does not qualify for financial aid. That means you would have to pay with your own personal money, pay out of pocket. That's an expression, pay out of pocket. It means you're paying your own money with your own money. So when you do your application, you want to be sure that you choose degree or non-degree. And you want to be honest, put all of the information as accurate as possible, okay? If you went to a university, you have to include it. So that's the first step, is do that application. What kind of application are you going to do, degree or non-degree? If you change your mind, let's say, oh, I chose non-degree, but I want financial aid, I want to change it to degree, no problem. You can change the type of application, just ask them at the Welcome Center office and they'll help you, okay? The second step is to turn in your documents and identification. Now remember, I said this and it's true, every student is different. You will bring different identification, maybe a driver's license, maybe a passport, maybe you have a green card, maybe you don't. Maybe you have an I-94, you have an F1 visa, you have an H1B visa, you have a J2 visa, all different kinds. Everybody's different. So just bring the identification that you have. Now, if you are undocumented, no problem. If you are undocumented in the US, yes, you can take classes at Nashville State. Now, undocumented students unfortunately pay out-of-state tuition, so it will be more expensive, but it is possible to go to school. And again, the documents that you need to turn in typically are transcripts, and those are your high school or university documents. They want to see the original, right? You cannot bring a photocopy or send an email. They need to see the original papers and identification with all the stamps and the marks from your school, your country, anything that you have. So just remember, your documents need to be official, original documents. They will make a copy so that we have a copy in our files, but you need to bring the originals. Now, step 3, and this is where you asked about tests and exams. So you would take an English language placement test. That would be required. And that English language test is going to tell us your levels. The test is very comprehensive. It covers speaking, it covers listening, grammar, writing, reading, covers everything. And when we get the results, it tells us the classes that you need. Now, the question was, can you take this test at home? And the answer is, so the test is now on a computer, right? It's a computer-based test. You can take it at the school or at home. Okay, so you have the option to take the test on a computer at our school, so you don't have to have a computer and internet, or you could do it at home. So you do have some options. But if you take the test at home, you have to make sure that you're in a quiet place. There's no other people in the room with you, because if there's somebody in the room, your test is not valid and you'll get a 0. So you want to make sure that you have what you need to take that test. And again, you can use our computers. That's not a problem. We do most of our tests in person, but we will support you if you want to take the test at home. Now, the other test that you may have to take is called the Acuplacer test. And the Acuplacer math test is a test that measures your math level, and it tells us the same thing. Are you ready for a college level math class, or do you need a support or helping class? Now, if you want to take the support class, let's say, oh, I'm terrible at math, I don't like math, I know I need extra help. Well, then you just tell the admissions office, I'm not going to take the math test, I'm going to take the extra math class. All right. And that's only one class. But for ESL, because we have 13 different classes at different levels, you have to take that English language test. And then we'll tell you what's best to help you. All right, so yes. Any questions about let's see, I think that's the last of the process. Let me double check here. Yes, so again, we have 3 steps. You're going to do that application on our website. You're going to choose a degree or non-degree application. You would turn in your documents and identification. They want to see the originals, and then you would take tests and exams. Any questions about those 3 steps to be a student at Nashville State?
Can you talk about any fees associated with any of those steps? For an application?
It's completely free. There is no cost, no charge. So if you do the application, there's no charge, it's free. And if you do the application in the fall and you change your mind and you want to do it in the spring, no charge. You can do the application 1 time every semester, no charge. And then for the documents that you bring in, there's no cost. You're just bringing, so, okay. If you don't have documents and you need them, so if, let's say, for example, you graduated from high school in Egypt and you have your Egypt high school documents, but you do not have your university documents, you must contact the university in Egypt and have them send you a transcript. If that university charges you money, then there would be a cost. So different schools have different, things about getting documents. But for us, we don't charge any money for the English placement test. We don't charge any money for the math test. Now, and I'm going to tell you this, the English language test, the ELPT that we have, is very expensive. And it's a very good test. And we only allow students to take that test 1 time per semester. So if you're going to be a student for the fall and you take the test for the fall, you can't come back in 4 weeks and go, oh, I want to take the test again. You can't do that. But if you wait and you don't go to class and then you say, I'm going to start in the spring and you want to test for the spring, you can do that 1 time per semester. Once you start taking classes, that means you've accepted your test results. Okay, so we do have some exceptions and things, but you would work with somebody at the college about that. But in general, you're going to take the test 1 time and you don't have to pay anything for that semester's test. Any other questions about testing or application process? Okay, so let's talk about the next thing. How do you pay for your classes? So, yeah, go ahead. No question? Okay. So financial aid. Whew. Financial aid is a complicated process. So I'm going to give you some general information and talk about it, and I'll answer as much as I can. But there probably will be something that I don't know. So for financial aid, it's the same thing. You have to follow the steps. Please be patient. Ask for help if you don't know something. And always tell the truth. This is a federal application. Let's see. So what I mean by follow the steps, you have to do an application. You have to do what's called a FAFSA. Oh, that's 2 slides from now. And after you do that, then you have to wait, because you do the application on the computer, it goes to the US federal government, goes to the government, doesn't go to Nashville State. Takes 3 weeks. Then the information comes to Nashville State. And then Nashville State has to review it. So please be patient. Now, there are different types of financial aid, but There are scholarships. A scholarship is just a gift of money, but a scholarship usually has requirements. Usually you have to have, grades at a certain level. You might have to have, 2 classes, 4 classes. So a scholarship usually has rules and requirements. A grant is also a gift of money. And when I say a gift, you don't pay the money back. They give it to you, you pay for school. A grant sometimes has requirements like the number of classes, but it is okay to be part-time if you have a Pell Grant. A lot of people think, oh, I have financial aid, I must be a full-time student. No, 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 no. You can be a part-time student. It depends on your financial aid, and you must know the rules for your type of financial aid. The last kind are loans. Loans, you do have to pay the money back. Usually there are fees or interest that you have to pay. So those all kind of go together. Okay, so those are different types of financial aid. So again, when you apply, what is the process? First thing, you go to the US federal government's website and you create an ID. It's called an FSA ID. This ID is your login. Please write it down, write your password down, write your questions, your security questions down, because you'll do the FAFSA, that's the application, and then you have to do the FAFSA every year. So you do the FAFSA one time for a whole year, but you have to do it every year. If you remember your FSA ID, then you will be okay. But if you don't, then you have to create a new ID and it gets messy. So that's the process to complete the application. Now, remember, I said there are different types of financial aid. It's one application. You do the FAFSA, and the FAFSA will look at all of these options. It will look at scholarships and grants. If you want loans, you tell them you want loans. But the FAFSA will look at all the different grants. It will look at, and Nashville State will use your FAFSA information to see what is the best type of financial aid for you. Okay, so you don't have to say, I want this. You just do the FAFSA, and then Nashville State will say, okay, this is what you get because the FAFSA fits you with this. So they kind of do a match. So when you do your financial aid application, make sure you watch your email, because the FAFSA people will send you emails. Nashville State will send you emails. You might get a letter in the mailbox, so you just have to watch for those. At my NSCC, you might get an alert on your student account, and that will tell you, hey, you're still missing something for financial aid, things like that. So in the financial aid process, you have to really watch that information that comes in both your email and your post, your regular US mail. So with that process, again, I'm going to say, be patient, follow all the steps, be patient. It is a federal application, so you must be honest and truthful. And now, why do I say this? Because if you are looking for doing citizenship later, and they find out, and they will, they learn that you have not given all the information on your FAFSA and you lied. Lying means keeping information off or putting in incorrect information. If you are deceitful and not truthful on your FAFSA, then you could be denied your citizenship. You could lose your opportunity for citizenship. If you went to a university, even if you went to a university for one day, you have to put it on your FAFSA. You have to put it on your college application. and they check, right? There are different ways that information communicates. So you want to be truthful in doing your financial aid in your application to Nashville State or any college or university. It's really important that you do that. Okay, any questions about financial aid?
Do you have many questions concerning this part?
Yeah, what's your question?
So if you need to go back and to study, but we have, as you know, we have a big family and we have to go to work and study together. So we are not sure if we can get a grant, a scholarship, or a loan.
Yeah.
If it is a grant or a scholarship, it will be okay for us to go back and study. So how we can know this?
Okay, that's a really, really good question. And that's very common. So you don't know what you're going to get, right? And so you have to do the process. You do your application to be a student. Again, it's free. And you also do the application, the FAFSA for financial aid. That's free, there's no cost. So when you do the FAFSA application, they will send you an email and they'll say, okay, we still have to check and get some information, but based on your FAFSA application, you would qualify for this much money. Now, if you do so the FAFSA looks at how much money your family makes, how much money you earn. And some students think, oh, I have too much money, I have a good job, but it's not true. If you don't qualify for federal government money from the FAFSA, there's also Tennessee state money. And so there's something in Tennessee called the Tennessee Reconnect. And the Reconnect doesn't look at how much money you make, but it looks at, did you qualify for federal money? Federal money always pays first. So you have to do the FAFSA to see if you qualify for federal money. And this is where Nashville State comes in. The school is going to look at your FAFSA application, and the school is going to look and see if you qualify for something different. And they will tell you. So it's important to do your FAFSA application early. So you can see here, the FAFSA opens for the next year on October 1st. So if you want to take classes in August of 2023, next month you can do your FAFSA. So you don't know what you qualify for until after you do the application and Nashville State starts to process it. But then you can have a conversation with Nashville State. You can check your email and they'll tell you, but you can also ask for help. So, yeah, the first thing is to do an application to be a student, do the FAFSA application, and then have a conversation with the financial aid office so that you can plan, because, right, you have a family, you have a job. How do you know what you can afford? Financial aid is supposed to help so that you can complete your degree or your certificate. And again, there are certain types of financial aid where you can go to school part-time, so you can still continue to work full-time. And the other thing about financial aid, well, I'm getting a little, let me think about that. Well, basically, it is unknown until after you do the applications. Okay, so that's really the big point. Okay, other questions? Does that answer your question?
Yeah, so what is the total fees for ESL program without national aid?
Okay, so how much do ESL classes cost? Yeah, so ESL classes and at a college or university, the cost is the same for cost of classes. We call that tuition. So here, let me Okay, so the cost of classes we call tuition. And tuition means how much money. And ESL classes or ESOL classes cost the same as classes for your major. Right now, one ESOL class equals $561. And that is for one semester, 15 weeks. If you take 2 classes, it's going to be more. Now, many, if not most, of our students do receive financial aid. So I would say most of our students receive financial aid. So, you know, don't think, oh, I'm not going to apply because I won't get it. You should apply and see what you do get. Because most of our students get Pell Grants that pays for everything. Some students get what's called a partial Pell. A partial Pell Grant, remember, a grant is a gift. It just pays for the class. You don't pay the money back. If you have a really good job, you might only get a partial grant and it'll pay for like half the class and you pay for the other half. So that is a possibility too. Other questions about financial aid and paying for class?
Okay, so is the financial aid depends on what degree you have, if you have like high school or university degree?
Yes. So if you have a high school only, then that's good because we want you to get a college degree. Okay, so let's look at why. What is going on? Why does it help the United States to pay for you to go to school? Because you think about it, why? It will give you a better job. It will help the United States be a positive country, creating jobs and helping the people who live here. So getting a degree will help you, and it will also help the knowledge of the country. So they want to help students pay for school. So if you only have high school and you have the right financial situation, they'll pay for your school. If you have some college or university in another country, they want you to finish. They're going to help you pay for school. If you have a degree from a university in another country and you can get a job here, they're not going to pay for you to go to school. So for example, I mentioned engineering. If you have an engineering degree, you could go get an engineering job right now. Now, what might be difficult is your English language. So you may need to work to improve your English. But if you have a degree that can get you a job, they're not going to pay for you to get a second degree because you changed your mind and you no longer want engineering, you want nursing. So, but again, we don't know. So do the application. And again, be honest and truthful on your application. If you have university, some university, a little bit, a lot, you have to put it on your application. If you don't, that's lying, that's dishonesty, and that could hurt your chances for citizenship. And they ask you these questions on the FAFSA and your college application. All right, what other questions do you have about paying for school?
We said like one semester equals 561.
No, that's one class, right? If you are a full-time student, it's going to be more money. And Nashville's, I don't know, can you see the website? No, you're still looking at my PowerPoint. Okay, hold on a second. I'll get tuition costs here for you. 1 second. So 2 classes is 1,104 and 2186. So 2 ESOL classes is equal to $1,104. And again, that's in 1 semester. If you go for 2 semesters, you're going to pay every semester.
Okay, how many semesters to finish ESOL?
It depends on your test results. Remember, if you take the test and you score high, maybe you only need 4 classes. If you take the test and you place into level 2, you might need 12 or 13 classes. If you qualify for financial aid, then you would have your classes paid for, and it doesn't matter. Every student is different. So I can't say, okay, all ESL students are going to take 1 class and everybody's going to pay $561 and that's it. Some students have financial aid. Some students go part-time. Some students go full-time. So it just really depends on your test results, and it depends on your financial aid, how much money you pay.
Okay,
And
so
I can
now-
tell you that university classes are much more expensive than a community college. A community college is less expensive. I mean, don't get me wrong, $2,000 is a lot of money. But most of our students, almost everybody receives financial aid. So this is something that you can talk to. Once you have your test results, you will talk with an advisor, and an advisor is going to help you make your class schedule. And you can talk to them about the cost, and you can look at your financial aid and you can see how much it's going to cost. And then you can decide how many classes you want to take. So it's having the knowledge and information of financial aid, your test results, and full-time, part-time student, and you bring all that information together to make your decisions.
So I'm asking if I have like a grant that covers ESOL. After I finish this and I wanted to continue studying, so they can give me another grant or it's over?
No. So your grant, so for example, most of our students qualify for what's called a Pell Grant. And you do the FAFSA every year. And when they give you your grant, I'm going to go ahead and make a new slide here. Give me just a second. Okay, so let's see. You do the FAFSA. All right, let me see if I can. Oops, all right, let me go here. I made a new slide. Okay, so you do the FAFSA. And the FAFSA you do 1 time. And that's the name of the application. Every year you do the FAFSA. You do it 1 time every year. So you do it now, and then you, oops, sorry. And now what happens, you do that FAFSA, it is going to cover fall and spring and summer classes. So let's just say you do the FAFSA. Let's say you're, it's easier to do it this way. You do the FAFSA and you want to take classes in the spring. Well, the FAFSA that you do is good for 22 and the year 23. And that's going to cover classes in spring 23 and summer of 23. If if you do, and then if things change, or if they don't change, then you do another FAFSA. And so this time you're going to do the FAFSA for the year 23-24. And that will be for fall of the year 23 and January of 24 and May of 24. So if you do your ESL classes, and let's say you do them and you finish them in 1 year, the next year you're doing classes for your major, no problem. You're going to do another FAFSA, and that's good for the whole year. Now, some students are very advanced. They complete all of their ESL classes in the fall and spring. So in the summer, they start taking classes for their major. And that's possible too. So the reason you do the FAFSA, so the FAFSA will cover financial aid for you to get your degree, to complete all of your studies, unless things change in your family. Okay, so if you suddenly get a really, really good job, then you don't need financial aid, then you lose your financial aid. But it's based on the application. And in the application, you are going to tell them things like how much money you make. Do you own a house or do you rent? It's going to look at all of your personal information to understand, is anybody else in your house going to college? Like, so in my house right now, I have 2 children and they're both at universities. So when I fill out the FAFSA, I tell them, okay, this is how much money we make. This is, you know, do we own a house? Do we rent a house? Do we have a loan on a house? And then how many people do I have in college in my house? And I've got 2. So they know that it costs more money to have more people in college. So you put that information on your application, and then you do your application every year. So if your information stays the same right about, then you should be fine, and you will get your FAFSA, you will get your Pell Grant until you graduate. But remember that grants and scholarships have rules. You have to follow the rules. Like, some of them say you cannot be part-time, you must be full-time. You must have good grades, right? You can't fail your classes. If you get Fs, if you get zeros in all of your classes for a semester or 2 semesters, they don't want to pay financial aid money for somebody who's not passing their classes. Why are they giving you money to go to school? Because they want you to get a degree so you can get a better job, so you can make it better for your family. Why are they giving you money? Because they want you to improve the country and all the communities in our country, right? So if you're not following the rules and you're not passing your classes, then you could lose financial aid. So even though a grant says you don't have to pay the money back, you still have to follow the rules.
Okay, so if I have children at university and I applied for FAFSA program, so will this affect my children?
So when you do a FAFSA, you put all your information on the application. So if you are going to school and you are the student, but you have other people in your house that also go to a university, you just put that on the application. And then, so it's all math, and I don't know math, I know English. I am not a financial aid expert at all, but what they will do is they will look at, okay, this is how much money your family makes, and this is how much money it costs to go to school, and you have 3 people who are going to college or university, then that will help them decide how much money to help you. but I can't give you specifics about that. Again, the only way you will know is do a FAFSA, do an application to the college and do a FAFSA, and then you will have the accurate information. And it doesn't cost any money to do that.
Are there financial aid advisors that students can talk to at Nashville State to answer some of these questions?
So, so yes, we have financial aid advisors that can guide students, but they won't talk to you until after you fill out a FAFSA, right? Because the service is free, but it's free for Nashville State students. So if you say, oh, I want to get financial aid information, but you're not going to be a Nashville State student, then that's not a service for you. So you have to do a student application and you have to do the FAFSA, and then we will answer any questions that you have and also make recommendations, right? So it's possible that, you know, there is a scholarship and then we're going to say, hey, look, there's this one scholarship we want you to, you know, do. So this is what you need to do. You need to, you know, be a full-time student. So yes, we have financial aid advisors or counselors. If you are going to do a loan to pay for classes, there's also someone to talk to you about that too. All right, I have to plug in my laptop. 1 second, sorry.
Did you have any more questions?
Yeah, I have one more question, if you please.
Okay, I'm plugged in. Go ahead.
As a community college, you don't have any grants or scholarship for any kind of Nashville citizenship?
Okay, so I'm English and I don't know all of the types of scholarships that they have. They have a lot. We have something called the foundation. The foundation has grants and scholarships. The state of Tennessee has grants and scholarships, and the US federal government has grants. Now, if you do the FAFSA, Nashville State will look at all of the possible scholarships that Nashville State has, that the state of Tennessee has, and the federal government. And they will look at you and see what you qualify for. So there are a lot of different things, and financial aid will pay for ESL classes and college classes in your major. It'll pay for everything. But I can't tell you what individual scholarships we have. What I would say is the first thing you have to do is you have to do a FAFSA so that we know what will match for you.
Thank you so much.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's so complicated and confusing. I mean, financial aid, I'm a native speaker, and financial aid is really difficult to understand and to do. But after you do it one time, then it's easier. It gets better. But
We have
again,
one more question.
yeah, go
I'm
ahead.
sorry.
So if you go to community college, the college classes are separate with the ESL classes, or they are together? Like if you have to take a test, the tests are separate or they are the same?
Okay, so if you want to take college classes at Nashville State, first you take an English language test. And the English language test will tell us if you need English classes. The English classes come before classes for your major or your career studies. So we're all the same college. They all cost the same amount. It's really what you do first and what you do second. Does that answer your question?
Can you, and maybe now is not the right time to do it, but I feel like students need to know about some of these for-profit institutions they may see advertised on television or hear on the radio, like University of Phoenix, what all that is and how that's different from what you're talking about.
Oh, this is a great question. So you will see a lot of schools advertised on the television, on the radio, on billboards when you're driving, those big signs on the highway. For profit means that they're making money from you. Nashville State is not for profit. It is what's called a nonprofit. So we're not charging extra money to make money and so that the people who own Nashville State can get extra money in their pockets. A for-profit school does exactly that. A for-profit school charges a lot more money. It will cost more money to go to other schools. Now, you have to be careful about those schools because they're not stable. Nashville State has been in the community for 50 years, 50. And we have students that come to us and say, oh, my school closed. I was going to this for-profit school and it closed. And now I can't get my transcript. And now half their financial aid was used at a school that doesn't exist and they can't finish their degree. So you have to be careful when you're going to a school. So what you can always do is you can ask, is this a state school? A state school is run by the state. They have regulations and rules. So Nashville State is one of 13 different community colleges in the state of Tennessee. And we have a group that tells us what we have to do. And we get money from the state of Tennessee. The tax money that you pay in Tennessee helps keep our cost of classes down. So that's why for in-state tuition, you live in Tennessee, you pay Tennessee tax. We use that money to help students in the college. So it costs less money. The TCATs, the Tennessee College of Applied Technology, there's like 20 of them or 30 of them across the state of Tennessee. Those are technical where you can get vocational training. If you want to do electrical or plumbing or carpentry, if you want to do cosmetology, you could go to a TCAT. Those are also run by the state of Tennessee. That means they're a public school. A public school is open to anybody. And the cost is going to be less. And we have more rules because we have the TBR telling us what we can do and what we can't do. So I have 2 children, I said, that are in universities. And as a parent, I had to go through the process with them at looking at schools. And I can tell you that, you know, we looked at some private schools, but for the cost of money and what you get, it's not necessarily the best thing because, again, there's more risk because the school could close, the courses may not transfer. I knew if my child went to Nashville State, Columbia State, Motlow Community College, I knew that they could take those classes and go to any university in Tennessee and they would be the same. They will count that transfer. We have an agreement. If you want to go to Tennessee State University in Nashville, if you want to go to Belmont, if you want to go to University of Tennessee or Tennessee Tech, we have an agreement that they will accept the courses that you complete at Nashville State for a major. Those private schools do not have those agreements. So transferring, they may say, okay, we like your math classes, but this history class isn't the same and you can't transfer that. You'll have to take history again. So there are some risks in doing private for-profit schools. Now there are some out there that are fantastic, like Vanderbilt University, Belmont, Lipscomb, Trevecca. Those are all great schools and we know them. They have a good long-standing reputation. However, they're very, very expensive. So, you know, you have to look at how much does it cost versus how convenient it is. A lot of for-profit schools are small. And if they're small, they may not have as many options. They may not have night classes and weekend classes or Zoom classes for everything. So there may be more difficulty for you to get your degrees. I don't know. I mean, I don't know enough about them, but I do know that you have private schools like Vanderbilt, Lipscomb, Trevecca, Belmont, But then you also have those for-profits like College of the South and DeVry and other places. And those are more expensive. So you have to kind of find balance and figure it out. And if you do an application at Nashville State and an application at another school, no problem. One thing that I find, this is something that will help you. When I have students come to me and they say, Miss Wendy, I want to do this, but Nashville State doesn't have this degree. I'm going to go to this school. I'm like, okay, let's take a look at their information. They never have the cost on their website. That to me is a warning, like, boop, boop, boop. If they don't put how much their classes cost on their website, they're hiding something. Vanderbilt University puts their cost on their website. It's very expensive, but it's there. But some of these for-profit schools do not put the cost on the website. That's not very honest. So that's what I would say. If they don't have the tuition, the cost of classes for you to see and plan, that's dangerous. All right, other questions?
I have a suggestion. So as a community college, why didn't you give a hand for a NICE to like give a scholarship for 2 or 3 persons that have the highest degrees to study as a community college?
Because we give scholarships and grants to everybody, not just NICE students. We have grants and scholarships. If you go to NICE, if you go to the Adult Literacy Coalition, if you go to Casa Asafran, they all have English language classes. And we have grants for everybody that qualifies. And I'm going to say most students get grants. So if you want a scholarship for a specific organization, then that has to come from a small group. We have lots and lots of money available. Again, almost every ESL student has a grant or a scholarship. It's very unusual. Yeah.
Are students eligible for the Tennessee Promise, or is that just for citizens or?
So the Tennessee Promise, so financial aid, if you are a asylee, refugee, permanent resident, or U.S. citizen, you can qualify for financial aid. So again, asylee, refugee, if you have an I-94, you can qualify for financial aid, permanent resident, green card, or citizen. So all of those groups can qualify for financial aid. Now, the Tennessee Promise is for students that graduate from a Tennessee high school. So that means you have to go to a Tennessee high school. I believe the students in your class are not at Tennessee high schools. So you would not qualify. We have lots of ESL students that do graduate from Tennessee high schools. They come here and maybe they're 12, 14 years old. They go to school for a couple of years and then they come to Nashville State and then they could get Tennessee Promise. But for students that did not graduate from a Tennessee high school, there's something else. It's called Tennessee Reconnect. Tennessee Reconnect is a state of Tennessee scholarship or grant, and that's for people who are older. If you're older than 23, 24 years old, and you do not have a degree, you have Tennessee Reconnect. So Tennessee Reconnect is for anybody that's not eligible for other money. So if you do the FAFSA, and again, when you do the FAFSA, Nashville State will look at all possible things. They will look at private scholarships that we have at Nashville State. We did in the past, we did have ESL scholarships. I don't know what they have now, but they have had them. So they'll look at private scholarships. They'll look at Tennessee State money. So they'll look at that Tennessee Promise and that Tennessee Reconnect. And they'll look at federal money, that Pell Grant, federal loans, the TSOC grant. There's different grants. And so they look at all of that. And then they say, okay, this student can have this. Now, if you qualify for federal money, that's the Pell Grant, that's the best. If you don't qualify for Pell Grant, let's say you have a great job and you make $100,000 a year, you could get the Tennessee Reconnect. So Tennessee Reconnect doesn't look at income. Tennessee Reconnect looks at, do you need money? Like, can I give you a scholarship or no? So, so there are many opportunities. So students in your class most likely will be Pell Grant, which is US federal money. And when you get a Pell Grant, usually you get extra money. Like they give you money and they pay for your classes, but they give you money to pay for your books. And they give you money to put gas in your car so that you can get to the college. Or if you have to buy food because you're in class all day. So there's all of this that goes with a Pell Grant. A Pell Grant is very generous and it's a lot of money. Or if you can't get a Pell Grant, then you get the Tennessee Reconnect. Again, the money comes from the state, not the US government, but Nashville State will see that you don't get the Pell Grant and then they'll go, okay, so then here's Reconnect. But there are rules. You have to take 2 classes with Tennessee Reconnect. You have to pass your classes. For Tennessee Reconnect, you must go fall and spring. Or if you start in the spring, you have to go spring, and then next year fall and spring. But if you go in the summer, that's okay, but it's not required. So you have different rules with different grants, so you have to pay attention. So again, there are lots and lots of ways that you can get money to pay for school. Most ESL students, I'm going to say like 90%, have financial aid. So again, fill out that FAFSA, it's free. Fill out an application to the college and then have a conversation about the costs.
So Tennessee Promise would be for the children of our
Yes.
students.
I'm sorry, yes, your children, if they're in a Tennessee school, they could qualify for a Tennessee Promise. And the Tennessee Promise doesn't look at your income, right? So now, if you're a Tennessee Promise student, your child is in high school and they graduate, you have to do certain things. They have rules. You have to do a Tennessee Promise application. That's separate. You do a FAFSA and a Promise application. Your child must do community service hours. That means that your child must volunteer, go help at a church for 6 hours or go do community cleanup. They have to follow the rules. There's a meeting or a video that they have to watch. If they don't watch that video, they don't get the promise. So there are things. And if your child is a senior in 12th grade right now, they are starting to have conversations. The deadline to apply is early. It's probably October or November. You'll have a meeting in November. You'll have a meeting in March. And you have to do those. If you miss them, no promise. Like they're very clear that you have to follow all of the steps. You can't skip a step. But again, you have to start with an application to the college and completing that FAFSA. You've got to do those first.
Any other questions?
Thank you for your time.
Oh, I'm so happy. It's a lot of information. It's so much information, but if you go step by step, you can do it. And I know that English is not your first language, but you can do it. And there are people to help you. If you live near Casa Azafran on Nolensville Pike, they have community meetings about college. They have counselors that will help you with a college application. You could do your application, come to Nashville State, especially at the Southeast campus. You can use any computer at the college to do your application. But if you get stuck and you're like, I don't understand this question, you can ask them. And they'll say, oh, this is where you put the name of your mother, or this is, you know. So, or you could bring somebody with you, right? Definitely do the application for the college. We will have what are called FAFSA workshops. A workshop is where you come, you bring information, and they'll have somebody there to help anybody that wants to do the FAFSA. So there will be FAFSA workshops too. And October 1st, that's the first day that you can do the new FAFSA. So you could go to a workshop. But if you want to be a student in January, then you need the FAFSA that's open now. You could do your FAFSA today. Okay.
But, can you screen share with the URL for Nashville State?
Oh,
So
yeah.
students have it. If you just want to see what the website looks like, know where the different campuses are. They're in different places around the city.
Right. So Nashville State has different locations. And our website is, and I'll share the screen with this in just a second, is nscc.edu. And oops, let me go back. I'm just updating this information. Oh, we gotta go the other way. Oh, sorry. I stopped sharing for a minute. I don't know what I did, but I'll go back. Screen share. All right, hold on a second.
I can just put it on the board if you want.
Yeah, I was gonna put some other information on there and I just clicked off for some reason. Okay, let me try and screen share again. Okay, so Nashville State is nscc.edu. And we have several locations, and we have a new campus in North Davidson County. So near Madison, Tennessee, if you live near Madison, we have a new campus there. It's beautiful. So we have one on White Bridge Road, which is in West Nashville. We have the Southeast campus, which is in Antioch. Most of our ESL students go there, but we do have some that are near Madison. And so you can just go to nscc.edu. You can also send an email to esol@nscc.edu. Now that is not my email. Remember, I'm not the ESL coordinator anymore. So somebody else will answer your questions, but they'll answer your questions. They're really good. So there's that. But yes, you can definitely, and if you want to know more, about the application, we have something called a welcome center, and we have the welcome center at any campus. So you can go to a welcome center at Nashville State, and they will be happy to help you. Let's see here.
All righty.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're so very welcome. Again, if you have more questions, send an email and we'll be happy to help you.
All right. Well, I hope that answered everybody's questions. Thanks for joining us. Thank you, Wendy, for being with us. Awesome. Appreciate
All right.
it.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Bye. Bye, John. Okay, let me stop the recording. Are you sure you want to stop? Yes.